Hey guys, and welcome back to my little corner of YouTube, Fruits of the Spirit. Today, we're focusing on courage and how David had a lot of it, so much so that he was able to take on Goliath. Wouldn't we all want to have at least some of that courage ourselves? Well, that's why we're analyzing David today. I'd say that the first thing that made David so courageous in the first place was that he and God were close. Like close. The type of close where you are 100% sure that nothing's going to happen to you. David was not shy in telling us that he was like this, as there are many places in the Psalms where he spoke about how he knew that God had his back. Like for example, there's Psalms chapter 27 verse 1. We can't get any clearer than this verse. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? We can never say this about someone else unless we completely trust them, and they trust us too, and both of us know that we will never turn our backs on each other. But okay, David was God's buddy, alright. But is that the only step to get this godlike protection? Actually, it's not. David had one more trick up his sleeve that guaranteed that the battle will go in his favor, which is why he was so courageous. To find this out, let's take a look at the text for Samuel chapter 17. When he confronted Goliath, David, without a single doubt in his mind, said that all Goliath had was a sword and a spear. But David had God on his side, and therefore he'd surely win. Then he ended off with this, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. This is what God was trying to achieve since the very beginning. See Exodus chapter 29 verse 46. To get the people to know him, and David had volunteered to be the vessel for that to be done. Why wouldn't he win? And David wasn't the only one who knew that because this was an opportunity to prove the power of God, that he would surely be answered. King Hezekiah proved this in Isaiah chapter 37 verses 14 to 37, when he asked God for help with the opposing army. God said this himself in verse 35, "For I will defend this city to save it for mine own sake." Another example are the 3 faithful Jews, who told King Nebuchadnezzar that they will bow to no other in Daniel chapter 3, despite the death penalty for disobedience. When God delivered them from that death penalty, King Nebuchadnezzar told all the nation that God is the true God, which is what God wanted in the first place. There was also Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 18, who created a contest with those of Baal to prove to the people who the true God was, by the real God answering the prophet's call by burning the sacrifice presented. God obviously ended up answering Elijah's prayer, proving to everyone who the true God was. It's knowing what God wants and falling in line with such things that gives these people the courage to do all these things. So, how can we get this courage to do things like this ourselves? Well, let's look back at David's story. We can see from his own statements in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 37 that since God was able to save him from lions and bears, a Philistine will be no different. Therefore, it's from previous experiences that give us so much courage in God. When we are in trouble and we're delivered by God, or when we have an important prayer that's answered by him, it's these kind of things that come over time that build our faith in God, that he won't leave us high and dry. But there is one more thing that builds the faith and courage of many believers in God, the little secret that I'll let you in on. And that is when a prophecy in the Bible is fulfilled in our time. Something miraculous like that is an amazing faith builder, because that not only shows that God was able to tell people what would happen thousands of years before it happened, but also that God hasn't forgotten about us even after all this time. 2 perfect examples of prophecies fulfilling are what we find in Daniel chapter 12 verse 4 and Amos chapter 8 verses 11 and 12. The first verse talks about the increase in the development of transportation technology and the amount of knowledge that humans would be able to know, and hasn't that happened today? And of course, there's Amos chapter 8 verses 11 and 12 that talks about the decline of the importance of spirituality portrayed as a famine for spiritual knowledge, and Isn't that true today? Churches are being replaced by condos, and religion is certainly not the most important part of people's lives anymore, especially those in Gen Z and younger. I could go deeper into these prophecies, explain them more, maybe even add a few more, perhaps in another video maybe, if you guys want me to. However, this specific video has to come to an end sometime, as it's quite clear how David had so much courage to fight Goliath. So, I guess I might as well end the video here. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, there's always the comment section below, or you can always hit the like button and the notification bell to be notified of when I post again. Have a very lovely day, and I love to see all you lovely people soon.